What's up everybody, this is Jake with P3. We've got our very first convertible in the showroom today, and it's a 650 horsepower convertible at that. This is the install video for the 6th gen Camaro. Our V3 gauges consist of three major components, and that's going to be the display, the harness, and the control box. And to get started, we always like to have you test this out before taking your dash apart to install it, just to make sure everything's good and that it pairs with the network in your vehicle. So we'll go ahead and connect the harness to the control box, and then we're going to connect the display to the control box as well, and then go ahead and just plug it into your OBD2 port. You might see some blinking dots or you might not, and then go ahead and start your car. The engine on here is pretty loud, so bear with me. But you should see data come up on the screen once you start the engine. We'll get something that's refreshing here. So we got good data, there's our RPM input. We're good to go with this install. So we can go ahead and disconnect this from the OBD2 port. And this install is pretty straightforward. You should only need a trim pry tool. And what we're gonna do is this side of the cluster bezel and trim is kind of one piece, and you may or may not need a trim tool to kind of hook around this. I actually just like using my fingers, and this should just snap forward like that, and we'll take it all the way loose on this top piece, and then on the bottom here, like so. And you shouldn't need much more slack than that, so you don't actually have to remove this whole thing, you just need a little slack on this side. Next, we want to pop this side panel off, and again, I like to just use my fingers, but you can use a trim pry tool if you need to. It's got several clips in it, and then it just comes free. So you've got 4 clips right like that. We'll set that aside. Now we need this vent to come out the front of the trim, and to do that, there's 4 small tabs on the back that you have to depress, and basically we're going to pinch them in to the vent itself, and I'll show you those as soon as we get them out. Depress them one at a time while you're kind of pushing forward tension on the vent, and as you get each one loose, it should come forward a little more. Just work your way all the way around. There's 3 and 4. And so here's those tabs right here. You're basically just pushing in on those 4 tabs. Also, you will note that this vent is marked with a top and a bottom, and if that's not enough, if you're looking at it from the top, the trim will kind of flare out towards the inside edge. So towards the steering wheel is where you want the thick part of this trim. Now that we have this vent loose, we can take this over to the workbench and install the display in it. Okay, we've got our vent on the workbench here along with a couple displays, and I wanted to make a quick note that if you have this style display, it's an aluminum bracket. This is our older display that we had for many years. It installs in the vent. It should come already in the vent for you. You shouldn't have to do the install. And then here's our newer version, which is a 3D enclosure, and that's going to get installed in your vent if you didn't select the OEM vent option. Just a note in case you see this style and you're confused. Moving forward, we only need a small screwdriver or 2 to get this trim off. And now this plastic is very stiff. I like to start on this thin side. It seems to be a little more flexible, and then once you get a couple tabs loose, it kind of just starts working off for you. So just start working on one tab, and if you can kind of keep outward pressure on it as you go, you can just kind of keep releasing tabs. And they are stiff, so you might have to go back and forth and kind of hold it out. Sometimes a second screwdriver helps as well. It's all kind of a balancing act because you don't want to just chop the tabs right off. Starting to come loose there. Just keep working around, work your way around the tabs. And as you get another one loose, it'll step out again. And now we'll work over to this thick side of the trim, and then it's off. So now you have your air control there. You want to leave this open and then hook a finger inside, and you're just going to give it a tug. You'll hear it pop. That's going to be it snapping past its little limit straps, I guess you could call them, and then this should just come out like so. So this kind of gets football shaped when you do that, and you might hear some pops. That's just these side pieces. Your trim is going to hold this all together, so if it comes a little bit loose, it's not a big deal. Set that aside, and then we want to note where the bottom and top are at this step, because we want the display cable to pass through this little honeycomb section there. So our top is up, And we're going on this left side here. We want to feed the RJ45 cable through that opening, pull the slack through, and then this is just going to slide in place. And again, we're going to get a little bit of that football shape to get this in. You might hear some popping, and see how it's even separated a little bit. That's perfectly okay. And then this is completely movable once it's inside, but it will be easier now without the tension of the trim ring to get this kind of straight in there. So we've got our top, the top of the gauge, there's the buttons there. This is the top, so we got that lined up, and now we can put our trim back on. And again, with the top being up, the thicker side is going to go to the inboard side towards the steering wheel. So we want to snap that back in place. And it only goes one way, so you shouldn't have any issues installing it the wrong way. And now this is back together and ready to go back in the car. Okay, we're back in the car with the display mounted in the vent, ready to go. First step is to feed the display cable through this opening in the front of the dash and out the side of the dash there. Just pull your slack through as you're feeding the vent into place, and then right before you snap the vent into place, make sure you can see the word top right here, and then you will also be able to see kind of where all the little alignment pegs go. And snap that into the trim like so. That's good. Now we want to feed our OBD2 harness up from the bottom, and just to the side of the OBD2 connector, you should be able to just feed it right up through. There's an opening there, just inboard of the OBD2 connector, and you should be able to see the harness coming through back there. And we'll see if I can reach it real quick. There we go. And then wiggle that through. We can then connect the control box on both the OBD2 harness side and the display side. Go ahead and tuck all that loosely in the dash. For the sake of keeping this video short, I'm not going to bundle all this up, but you can tuck this or wrap it up however you'd like. I always mention in these videos that we're constantly taking gauges in and out of our own cars for development stuff, and I typically never wrap them up in felt or anything like that, and don't really have to deal with any rattles or anything like that. So you should be good on that front. We've got our vent and display in there now. All the harnesses in. Last step is going to be putting this side trim on. Just make sure it's lined up with your pegs there. And then once it's clipped in, the front of the dash can just snap back into place. After you're done, go ahead and start your engine. Plug your ears if you got a loud exhaust. And the gauge should fire up for you. Lastly, if you're into this stuff, you can go ahead and peel off the protective film. Or not, if you're not into that. Some people like to leave this on and then pull it off a year from now and it's still brand new. But there you have it. That wraps this install up. Pretty easy one. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them below for us. We really appreciate you guys watching these videos. We're a small company. Word of mouth, social media, all this stuff means a lot to us. Helps spread the word about these products. Helps answer questions you guys have about our products. And we genuinely appreciate it. Thanks for watching.